Okay, so you want to buy a nightclub in Miami. And honestly, who could blame you? You picture it perfectly. Your name on the door, the velvet rope, a superstar DJ, bottles arriving at tables with sparklers hissing, and a river of cash flowing straight into your pocket every single weekend. It looks like the most fun way to get rich ever invented. So here's the thing you need to know before you spend a dollar. The nightclub business has one of the highest failure rates of any business on earth. Most new clubs don't survive their first year, and yet the good ones can print money like almost nothing else. Both of those things are true at the same time, and by the end of this, you'll understand exactly what separates the club that mints a fortune from the one that quietly dies in 11 months. So let's go shopping. At the cheap end of the catalog is the small lounge. A little spot, a few hundred people, a good sound system, a local DJ. In most of the country, you could open something like this for around $250,000. In Miami, at a premium, because everything here costs more, and everyone here has seen fancier. This is the tier where most dreamers start, and also where most of them end, because a small margin on a small room leaves no cushion when a slow month hits. One step up is the real Miami club, the kind with a proper light show, a booth that can hold a famous DJ, a serious bar, and rows of VIP tables. Opening one of these properly runs anywhere from several hundred thousand into the low millions, and that's before you've made rent on a big Miami Beach space, or paid for the sound and lighting that separates a club people talk about from one they forget. For comparison, E11, one of the city's giants, was reportedly a $40 million build. You are not opening that on a credit card. And at the very top of the catalog is the thing you can't really buy at all, which is a brand. LIV, inside the Fontainebleau Hotel. E11, open 24 hours a day. These aren't just rooms. They're names that celebrities want to be seen in, and that reputation took years and a lot of failures to build. You can copy the confetti and the lasers. You cannot copy the fact that everyone already wants to be there. There's also a shortcut the big players use to buy that credibility faster. Partners with famous faces. Look closely at Miami's most successful nightlife operator, and you'll find restaurants co-owned with Pharrell, with Bad Bunny, with David Beckham as a regular fixture. The celebrity isn't there to pour drinks. They're there because their name and their friends turn a nice room into the room instantly. It's the same logic as the expensive DJ, just applied to ownership. In this business, star power isn't a marketing expense. It's the actual product, and the smartest owners figured out that it's cheaper to give a celebrity a slice of the club than to keep paying to rent their glow one night at a time. So where do you actually buy in? You can build a club from scratch, slow and risky, or you can buy an existing one, and buying existing is where new owners get their first hard lesson. Because when you buy a club, you're really buying two things, a physical space and a crowd. The space is easy. The crowd is everything, and the crowd is loyal to the vibe, not to you. Buy last year's hot club, and you'll often find this year's crowd has already moved on to somewhere newer, because in nightlife, being popular last season is almost a warning sign. The trap hiding in every successful club for sale is simple. If it's really so successful, why is it for sale? Usually the answer is that the owner can feel the crowd getting bored and wants to sell you the party right before it ends. And then there's the distressed aisle, which in Miami nightlife is enormous because clubs die constantly. You can pick up a failed club space and equipment for very little. The catch is that a dead club often died for a reason baked into the location itself: bad neighbors, tricky permits, a curfew, or a spot that's just cursed. You're not buying a bargain. You're buying someone else's unsolved problem with a disco ball attached. First, though, your first bill, and this is where the fantasy meets the paperwork. Before you sell a single drink, you need a liquor license, and in Miami, that is not a formality. Florida uses a quota system for full liquor licenses, meaning there are only so many to go around, and a proper one, the kind that lets you serve spirits all night, can cost you anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 or more on the open market, because you're often buying it from someone else who already holds one. On top of that sits the city paperwork, the building inspections, the certificate that says your room is legally allowed to hold a crowd, and the insurance, which for a business built on drunk people dancing in the dark is exactly as expensive as it sounds. Then the weekly costs, which are brutal and never stop. Rent on a big Miami space, security, and lots of it. Bartenders, servers, barbacks, door staff, cleaners, and the single scariest line on the whole budget, the DJ. A big-name DJ in Miami doesn't play for exposure. Top touring DJs command tens, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars for a single night, and in the club world, performer fees can eat up to half of everything you make on a big event. Think about that. You might hand 50% of the night's revenue to one person for a few hours of work. And you have to, because that one person is the reason the room is full. And there's a hidden layer of cost most people never see: the promoters. In Miami, the beautiful, buzzy crowd doesn't just show up on its own. Clubs pay an army of promoters to physically deliver people to the door, especially the models and the big spenders, and those promoters take a cut of everything their table spends. So even the crowd, the thing that makes your club look effortlessly cool, is quietly bought and paid for behind the scenes. Which gives us rule number 1 of the nightclub business. You don't sell drinks, you sell a room full of the right people, and you'll pay almost anything, to the DJ, to the promoters, to the whole machine, to keep that room full. So how does the money actually come in? And here's the reveal that changes how you'll see every club forever. It is not the cover charge at the door. That $20 or $80 barely covers the DJ and the door staff. The real machine is the bottle. Here's the beautiful, slightly insane math. A bottle of vodka that cost the club maybe $30 or $40 gets sold at a VIP table for $400, $500, sometimes $1,000 or more. That's not a typo. In the bar business, the actual liquor in a drink costs the owner only about 20 cents on every dollar you pay. The other 80 cents is pure markup for the experience, the table, the sparklers, and the right to sit somewhere everyone else is looking. This is the one number that makes the whole risky business worth attempting. Almost no other legal product lets you buy something for $40 and sell it for $1,000 while the customer thanks you for the privilege. So think of a Miami nightclub not as a bar, but as a theater where the most expensive seats are sold by the bottle. The dance floor is the cheap standing room. It fills the place and creates the energy. But the money is in the tables around it, where groups pay a minimum spend, often $1,000 to several $1,000s, just to sit down, and at the very top, tables that run tens of thousands of dollars a night. At E1111, there's a famous table that reportedly costs $100,000. The crowd on the dance floor isn't really the customer. The crowd is the show. The customer is the guy at the table paying $6,000 for a bottle he could buy at a store for $40, because what he's actually buying is everyone watching him do it. And here's where Miami plays a special trick most cities can't: the calendar. For a normal weekend, a good table might run $3,000. But during the big weeks, Art Basel in December, Miami Music Week in March, a Super Bowl, a Formula One race, those exact same prices can double or triple overnight, and the whole city fills with people who will pay it without blinking. A handful of these golden weeks can make more money than months of ordinary weekends combined. So a huge part of the real skill is not running a great party every night. It's surviving the dead summer so you're still standing when the whales fly back into town in December. The club that dies in August never gets to see the December that would have saved it. Which tells you who your real customer is. And it's a very small number of very big spenders. On a great night, a handful of VIP tables can out-earn the entire rest of the room. Your whole business, all that staff and rent and risk, is really built to attract and pamper maybe a few dozen people who will drop serious money to feel like the main character. Lose them to a newer club, and the lights are still on. The DJ is still playing, and you're quietly bleeding to death in a full room. Now, the graveyard, and Miami's is stacked high, because this city eats nightclubs for breakfast. The most important lesson comes from the man who conquered this city, David Grutman, the owner of LEV and the closest thing Miami nightlife has to a king. Here's what the success stories skip. When Grutman opened his very first club, years before LEV, he threw everything at it and, in his own words, failed miserably. He failed so badly that the company he was trying to impress ended up buying the club back from him. The king of Miami started by losing. The lesson: even the person who eventually built a nightlife empire got the first one badly wrong, which should tell you exactly how hard this is. The second grave is his own club, Story, and it's the most Miami death imaginable. Story was a massive success, a landmark, holding over 1,000 people, and in 2023 it closed anyway. Not because the crowd left, because the city of Miami Beach passed a new rule forcing bars in that neighborhood to stop serving alcohol at 2 in the morning instead of 5. The club's own lawyer said plainly that Story could not survive the change. And it didn't. The lesson is one every club owner learns eventually. You don't fully control your own business. The city does. A single vote by local politicians who are tired of noise and drunk 20-year-olds can end a wildly popular club overnight, no matter how much money it was making. The third grave is the biggest and quietest one, and it's not one club, it's the pattern. Miami is a graveyard of venues that were the hottest place in town for one glorious season and then vanished. The same physical building on Collins Avenue has been a nightclub for about 30 years under a parade of different names, each one certain it would last forever. That's the real lesson of Miami nightlife. The room survives, the party never does. You are not buying a business that lasts. You are renting a moment, and the meter is always running. So let's calculate how much you'll actually earn. You've opened a solid mid-sized Miami club. In the optimistic scenario, you catch the wave. You're the new hotspot, the crowd is beautiful, and on a big Saturday, you might do a couple $100,000 in a single night, most of it from those VIP tables and their absurd bottle markups. String enough of those nights together, and after the DJ, the staff, the rent, and the liquor, you're clearing real money, potentially a few $1,000,000 of profit in a peak year. This is the version everyone imagines, and it's genuinely possible. For a sense of the ceiling, LIV, the very best in the city, has reportedly done around $65 million in a single year. That's a real asset. Now the realistic scenario, which is where most owners actually live. You open, you have a hot 3 months, and then a newer club opens 6 blocks away, and your beautiful crowd, the loyal-to-nobody crowd, drifts over to see what's new. Your Saturdays are still okay, but your Tuesdays and Wednesdays are dead, and those quiet nights still cost you full rent and staff. One rainy month, one bad review, one summer lull, and you're suddenly losing tens of thousands of dollars a week. Add one unlucky event, a fight that makes the news, or a new city curfew like the one that killed Story, and the whole thing can be over before your first anniversary. This is education, not financial advice. And the honest truth is that in nightlife, the same club can look like a gold mine in March and a disaster by August because you're selling something as fragile as a mood. If this was useful, subscribe and drop a comment. If you owned the place, would you blow the budget on one giant superstar DJ to pack the room, or keep it low-key and pocket the difference? I read every one. Next in this series, the economics of owning a Michelin restaurant, another business where the glamour hides a terrifyingly thin margin. Because here's what you actually bought. You did not buy a business that sells drinks. You bought the world's most expensive mood, and you have to recreate it perfectly every single weekend, forever, while the crowd that made you hot silently shops for whoever's hotter. When it works, you're the undisputed king of Miami, and the bottles never stop. When it stops working, you're a man alone in a very loud, empty room, still paying the DJ. The drinks were never the product. You were selling the feeling of being somewhere that matters, and nothing in this entire city stops mattering faster than a nightclub.